Hello everyone, I'm Natalie and welcome back to my channel. I create vintage inspired patterns and tutorials to help you create classic timeless pieces for your wardrobe. Today's video is part 1 of a 2-part tutorial for the Esther Vest pattern. In this video, part 1, I'll be showing you how to sew the Sawtooth style quilt block with a square in the square centre. We will use this block in part 2 to create our quilted tie-up vest. You can find the full pattern and instructions from my Etsy shop, the link is in the description below. If you love vintage inspired fashions and you love sewing, make sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any future projects. Let's get sewing our quilt block. Starting with our square in square block, you need a centre square of 3 by 3 inches and 2 smaller squares of 2 3/4 inches. These will be cut in half diagonally to create the 4 triangles. For the Sawtooth star block, you need 4 squares measuring 2 3/4 inches, which will be cut in half diagonally to give us 8 triangles in total, as well as 4 rectangles measuring 4 1/4 inches and 2 1/4 inches. These will create our flying geese units, and then we will need 4 2 1/4 squares for our corners. Starting with the square in square block, fold your 3-inch square in half to mark out the middle and do the same for the triangles so you can line them up perfectly in the middle. Pop 2 triangles on either side of your square and sew. Make sure to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance for all your seams. Press your triangles open and then repeat for the next 2 triangles. Moving on to the flying geese units now, I'm folding in half our 4 1/4 inch and 2 1/4 inch rectangle to mark out the centre again. Then, to make things easy for me, I'm just marking out 1/4 inch away from the centre on either side of that centre with a heat erasable pen. I can then use these marks to line up the triangles on the rectangle. I sew one triangle and then press it back, and then I line up the next triangle and sew that one. I repeat this step with my other 3 flying geese units, and then I make sure to press everything open. I had my little helper Peanut to make sure I was doing everything properly. Now you should have all 4 flying geese units and our square in square centre block. I like to trim off any corners sticking out, and then I trim down the seam allowance on the underneath where the rectangle overlaps. Now we're going to attach 2 of our flying geese units to our square and square block. To do this, just line up the corners with a pin, right sides together on either side, and sew that seam allowance. My points are by no means the perfect example, but try and pin them closely so that they end up just kissing. Then press those open, and then we're going to move on to our other 2 flying geese units, which we're going to attach the smaller 2 1/4 inch squares to. Line up your 2 1/4 inch squares along the short sides of your rectangles and sew down with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Then press those open and repeat with your other flying geese unit. Now that we have those done, we're going to attach it to our main block, and again we're just going to pin through that point in the centre to the other point in the centre in our square and square block. And then we're going to work out just making sure we align all of our seams. Then sew that with a 1/4 inch seam allowance and repeat for the other side. Please don't look too closely at my points, but once you're done and everything is pressed out, this is what your block should look like. And that's our block all finished. I hope you enjoyed sewing, and don't forget this is just part 1 to a 2-part tutorial where we will use this block to sew the rest of our vest. You can find the pattern and templates linked below in my Etsy shop. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and hit the little bell button to be notified of when the next tutorial goes live. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in part 2.